gon' call me Jiggy when I'm home, they call me Snowman here. We ain't never home, but treat the city like the base, yeah. You know where to look if you're looking for the wave, yeah. Looking for the...
Welcome to another episode of the EuroSteppin Podcast, where we bring the real deal with European basketball. Hear from players about how they live as international basketball players. I'm your host, David Dixon, here with my bro,
Alvin Snow. Welcome.
Al, man, we got a guest here today that a lot of people has done a lot of stuff that a lot of people has failed to do. The champ is here. This guy has won on every level. High school state championship, NCAA state championship, professional championship. Matter of fact, he just came off the championship in Germany. He has a lot of accolades. He's been a Euro Cup top scorer. He's been a BBL All-Star. He's been all BBL first team. BBL All-Star MVP. NCAA champion. Two-time Big East Tournament MVP. A Naismith Award. Third team All Big East. Second team All Academic All-American. A McDonald's All-American. Third team Parade All-American. And he's been watched as Mr. Basketball. Everybody, we would like to welcome to the show Mr. Peyton Siva.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Hey, we trying to bring you in right.
Right. Tell me this. How much of that stuff did you forget you did?
Man, all of it. Man, I live in the present, man. I'm thankful, that I was able to accomplish so much. But I mean, I wouldn't be nothing without the people that helped me along the way. So I thank God for all of it. So,
man, one of the things I wanted to get into with you is when you say that, like you hear so many people say things like what you just said, right? But what feels different with you is everybody I talk to who's ever been around you says that's who you've been since you were a kid. So I kind of wanted to touch on where that came from.
For me, my daughter's going to walk in. But for me, just I would say the surroundings that I grew up with, the people that I was around was able to, help me so much. Say hi.
Hello.
Was able to help me so much to, get to where I'm at. So I credit my mom, my dad for, helping me to try to stay grounded and humble. But, growing up in the community, I grew up in the Central District area,
Right.
And at the Rotary Bros and Girls Club, I was fortunate to be around some, great leaders and men that kind of, kept me grounded and always try to tell me to remain humble. And so, as you know, Seattle's a big basketball family. And I was able to kind of see older people, the way they communicated, the way they always stayed grounded. And I always wanted to be like them. Growing up, I always watched Jamal and, AB and all you guys at Franklin. So, I try to emulate what you guys did, and I was able to kind of, instill that within myself.
Mm-hmm. When you say AB, you guys at Franklin, talk a little bit about your time at Franklin, because that's kind of, I know you started off before that in AAU and things like that, but I kind of want to touch a little bit on your time in high school and you playing with some other great players at your time through high school. And then we'll kind of move on throughout your career. So can you talk about some of your experience and some of the big pivotal moments you remember from your time at Franklin High School?
I would say that, going to Franklin was definitely a blessing, because I was able to go under a coach and Coach Kerr, who treated me like I was everybody else. And I think that really helped me out a lot. You know, he wasn't the type of coach that would treat you as a superstar or, you know, treat you above anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
He treated me the same as he treated, you know, my senior year. I played varsity since my freshman year. And, you know, senior year, you know, like he said, I was McDonald's All-American. I was, you know, one of the top players in the state, if not the nation. I was still putting up the backboard in the gym. I was still sweeping the floors after practice. So I was still doing, you know, things that freshmen would do or a manager would do, but it helped me to stay grounded, to not put myself above anyone else. And, you know, I give all the credit to Coach Kerr because, you know, he always liked to say he runs this shit, and it stuck with me. But, you know, he was the type of guy that, you know, he treated every player the same. And that helped me go on to college. It helped me go on to professional, to just kind of stay grounded and stay the same and treat my teammates the same, man. I loved it at Franklin, man. You know, I'm always going to represent, you know, Quakers forever. If I see anything on social media about Bulldogs, about Rainier Beach, I'm always, hey, I never lost to them. So I'll always tell them that. So, I mean, Franklin played a huge part in my basketball career, but I also loved Franklin in general, man. It was just a nice school. I loved the teachers there. I loved everything about it, man. I'm a diehard Quaker forever.
Right. So one thing that I wanted to kind of set the table for diving into some of your professional, some of your time at the professional level, but I want to set the table with giving people a background on what you've been through and what kind of created this monster that we now see, right? Just killing everything, right? So it's good for us to have a conversation about Coach Kerr and some of the guys at Rotary and all the grown men in your life. Can you talk to us now a little bit about your leadership style and how all that came together to kind of help you develop what works for you and what has you finding ways to win these championships year after year, right?
I mean, starting back from, let's go back to Franklin. My freshman year, I came in as a freshman. We had a very talented group of guys. We had Donnie Cheatham, Jordan Daisy, Vanoy Overton, who went to UW, who was, to me, the best player in the state at the time. And then Isaiah, you know, were two of the top names. So I had those guys in front of me. Yeah, Isaiah Thomas.
Okay.
And I had Vanoy, Donnie, Jordan Daisy, all those guys in front of me. And they were all older guys. Donnie and Jordan were both seniors.
Just so not to cut you off, but just so the people who are watching know, when he says Vanoy Overton played at the University of Washington, the starting guard there. I believe he was Defensive Player of the Year. He was an elite defender at the Pac-12 level and in the country. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And so I got to go there, and knowing, you know, Vanoy wasn't a really vocal leader. He was more of he's going to work. He's going to show you how he plays. He's going to let his game speak. But then Donnie Cheatham, who was our starting point guard at the time, was a vocal leader. I mean, I wouldn't say he wasn't as talented as Vanoy or the rest, but he had the biggest heart. I mean, he's smaller than I am, and I'm 6 foot on a good day. And, you know, the passion that he played with, and, you know, how hard he played kind of carried over with me going forward. We won the state championship that year. The next 2 years we lost in the state tournament. We went back to the championship but lost to Ferris. And then my senior year, it was on me. And so with all those guys kind of teaching me and helping me along the way, I kind of took similar styles from each of them. With Vanoy Overton, I took his style and kind of like letting my game speak for myself. But also with the Donnie Cheatham style, I always play with a big chip on my shoulder. I always play like I had something to prove and try to do it on both ends of the floor. And so that was really big for me to kind of, you know, mesh those guys' personality within mine. Because if you know me, I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not gonna, you know, talk the most So for me, I had to kind of get out of my comfort zone, had to kind of pick and choose where to, you know, put players at. And as being the point guard, everybody looks at you. So I had to be able to kind of, you know, I always think for myself as a leader, you have to know your player personnel. You know, I can't go talk to one person the way I can talk to another. Like, you know, I can say when I was younger, I can go yell at my point guard, Beyonce Reed, who was our starting point guard at Franklin. I can go yell at him, get on him, because he knows I'm like his big brother. I'm not going to, you know, not put him in a bad position. To whereas somebody else, I might not talk too as reckless. I might go up to him and, man, you know, behind the scenes and like kind of lead them on, because some people take criticism differently. And I think that helped me going into college to kind of figure out how to, you know, talk to different players, because at that level, everybody's an all-star, everybody's an all-American. Right. So you have to bring those collective group of guys together and find a way to do that. And I think that kind of Franklin helped me to go into college and then do that as I progressed in my career.
Right.
So you most recently, you only been in Europe since what, the past 2-3 seasons? Am I correct?
No, I've been in Europe for a while, man.
For a while, okay. Because I was looking at it, I was like, I know you did a couple of D-League stints, and then you played that year in the league.
Yeah, I played 1 year in Detroit, and split that time with Fort Wayne Mad Ants, and then spent 1 year in Erie, and then came over straight to Europe. So
coming to Europe, your first time, what was going through your mind? What was you thinking? Did you want to come to Europe? How was you, you know, what was your feelings towards Europe?
I didn't really want to come to Europe, you know, because Europe gets such a bad stigma, especially in the States. You know, for guys who don't know basketball or guys who've never played professional, you don't really get the feel of how European basketball is. And as a you know, American, whatever, you know, you kind of feel like, which is a bad stigma, but you look at Europe kind of as a failure. Like you didn't make it to the NBA, or you didn't, you know, pan out. And such a terrible view to look at it that way. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you know, there's only so many people that can make it to the NBA, but you can't look at it as a failing point if you don't. And, you know, when I was younger, I kind of looked at it that way. I kind of looked at going to Europe because, you know, you always hear when you're in college or in high school, like, oh, you're going to be playing the ball overseas, and this gets such a bad reputation. And so my first year, I didn't really want to come over, but, you know, it was better money than I was going to make in the G League, and I didn't want to keep fighting in the G League, to one day get in the NBA, where, you know, I've seen players, which now it's grown a lot, seen players get over to Europe and come back to the NBA or make a good career. And now that I'm over in Europe, you know, you can have a great living for your family, for yourself. And, you know, so I've learned a lot in that process, but my first year was definitely tough to come over just because of the mindset that I had. But I learned along the way that, you know, it's basketball. I'm getting to do what I love to do for a living, and, you know, I enjoy it. But my first year was tough going to Italy. I was in Caserta, Italy. So it was definitely a culture shock going over there.
Talk a little bit about that culture shock. Let's dive into that, because that's something we like to talk about on our podcast.
Is there any stories that you have that, you know, really, if you think about it's funny or
it was tough, man, just because, well, one, the city I was in, they didn't speak any English. Very rarely did they speak English. So that was tough when I first got over there. I lived in a hotel for, I would say, like the first 6 months I was there. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't like a one hotel room. Like, it was kind of like a suite per se, but, you know, we felt comfortable at that time because there was luckily another family that lived in the hotel for work that spoke English and Italian. So they kind of helped us out along the way. But man, it was tough because the culture is different. The practice gym is really hot in the summer, and then it's just like freezing cold in the winter. Like I had to literally wear like hoodie, sweatpants, gloves to warm up because I was freezing in there. Luckily, man, I found some good friends there was a Navy base there. Mm-hmm. So I found some good friends, Mario and Courtney, and was able to go on the Navy base and get some American food, man. They had Subway there. They had some American groceries. So I was trying to go there every chance I got. But it was definitely an interesting season, man. My first year I played over there with Micah Downs and Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones, UW guy.
Yeah. You played with a lot of Seattle guys, man.
Yeah. No, I played with a lot of Seattle guys through my European trip. And it's funny because when I first heard Bobby was good, I was like, and I used to, watch you at UW and see you come up there and rip the cut and everything in Seattle. So it was great. Bobby was a great veteran, and he helped me out a lot because he played in Italy for like 8 years or so. Yeah. And, so he kind of like knew the ins and outs.
Yeah. I think he's still in Italy.
Yeah, he's still in Italy. Yeah, I still talk to him to this day, man. He's he still helps me out a lot with everything.
Bobby Jones, good dude, man.
Yeah, we gotta get Bobby on the show.
Great dude. But yeah, man, that Italy, it was, you don't get paid on time. They might give you.
Talk about it.
Hey, man. Hey,
the first time that check came late, what were you thinking?
How many times you call your agent? What was this?
Bro, first time it came late, it was like every month, man. It was tough, man, because just the situation over there, it was different. So I didn't know what to expect. The guys, would tell you one thing and you don't really expect it going over there. That was my first year, so they kind of have like a rule over there, like if you don't get paid within the first 30 days, then you can kind of like sit out, or you can like go to another team or whatever. But it was my first year, so I kind of wanted to just go with the flow. Plus I was getting hurt a lot, so I was like, I'm just stick with it, let's see how it goes. But man, it was getting to points where like you get little bit of money here to kind of help you out, but it was a struggle, man. It was a struggle, like late payments. Like I'll go around asking all the players, like, hey, you get paid? Like, you start asking. I think I was on the phone with my agent probably like every day, almost every week, just not even about basketball. Like I didn't even care. I was like, man, they gonna pay this month? Like it was, that's why I love being in Germany and Berlin now. They one of the few countries that is mandated to pay on time. So
right.
Yeah, definitely.
At midnight, huh?
Hey, that thing hit the day early sometimes.
Yeah,
you're surprised.
One of the few countries where you're gonna get that like clockwork.
Like,
no problems. No matter what team you on, you getting that.
For sure. Germany, France, one of the I think 2 countries that's backed by the government. So like things are in a timely order. I love that.
So what countries did you play in?
Like as team-wise, I just played in Italy and Berlin. I've been in Berlin for the last 4 years, and I played in Italy for 1 year. So I've been lucky and fortunate enough to stick with one team, which is very rare for American, for a foreigner to stay with one team for so long. So I've been very fortunate to stay with a team that I actually like the coach, like the organization, and a place that my family actually feels comfortable in. So I've been very fortunate as a player to be in this type of situation.
Great city.
Say it again, Dave.
Great city, Berlin.
Yeah, love it.
Tell me this. I hear a lot, I see a lot online, a lot of noise, a lot of chatter around your name. It comes up with a bunch of other clubs. I hear, come to Panathinaikos, come to such and such. What is your take with all of that noise? Like, how do you handle all of that noise? What do you feel? I know you say you really like Alba, but where are you with all of that?
For right now, like I said, I have another year under my contract with Alba. So, I feel secure in that sense, especially with everything going on with the pandemic, teams cutting budgets and everything. I felt really secure about that. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword because you kind of feel the love that you're wanted in a sense. Like, like I said, like the Panathinaikos fans would like hit me up, or Red Star fans would hit you up, or whatever teams were like, we would love to have you play for us and such. So, it feels good in a sense in that way, but it can also go the other way. Like, you ain't this, or, you're trash. Like, you get a lot of hate mail once you play those teams. So, you kind of take it, the good with the bad, and kind of try to just, look at it, enjoy it, but just keep it moving. Like, you see a lot of rumors. Like, I've seen a lot of rumors just with current teammates, myself. And it's like, well, I haven't heard that. Like, I signed somewhere? Like, I haven't signed anything. So,
right.
You kind of see those type of things. And, I mean, that's just our profession. For sports in general, especially nowadays, everybody wants to have the scoop. Everybody wants to be the first to report something. So you kind of just got to take those things with a grain of salt. It's funny. I saw an interaction the other day where, actual GM said the news is fake. Like, and the person was like, no, but I have a reliable source. And it's like, I'm telling you, like, it's not true. And it's funny that, people would try to just like, no, but it is. But like, you're getting the information direct from the source. Like, they know more than these other sources. But it's just a crazy world that we live in, especially with the social media craze. Everybody wants to be the first to report something. But you kind of just got to take it, lightly, and enjoy it while you can, and just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Well, I know in Germany, I know they have great fans, but they're more conservative compared to other places. What would you say, which place would you say you played at on the road, or, even a team that you played on had the craziest fans?
Craziest, like, just like reckless fans, I would say that, I didn't get a chance to play in Panathinaikos. I heard their fans are real crazy. I missed that game. But,
you guys won that game.
Yeah, we won that game, yeah. And we won the Olympiacos game too, so we went to Greece and got those two. But I would say, like, crazy fans, Red Star was in Belgrade. They were crazy. Loud. We played Partizan at home, and Partizan brought their fans there, and they were nuts. So, it was crazy to see that. But a crazy crowd, especially when they're winning, Maccabi. Maccabi was surprising. It was loud in there. It was, their fan section was just dancing around, running around. It was funny to see, but, like, they were crazy. But those clubs, like I said, I didn't get a chance to experience the Panathinaikos fans, which hopefully this year when we go there, I'll be able to, play and see. But, those fans are the ones that kind of stood out to me, in a sense, that were, the loudest, or like you get called out some names there. So
let's talk about it.
Man, you gotta just be prepared to kind of just like focus up, just block it all out, man. Like,
what are some of the craziest things you've heard or been through with some of these fans?
Man, I've been seeing everything thrown on the court. Like, they love throwing things on the court. I must have hit a 3 in Red Star and was like pumping up myself, and I went to the bench. I'm just hearing "F you, Siva, F you," like the whole time. I looked in the crowd one time, little kid flicking me off. I'm like, I ain't do that. I mean, you get a lot of different things. I mean, it was all in the the joy of the sport, but it's funny. Like, sometimes you kind of like glance up, you see somebody flicking you off or something, and for me, I think it's funny. Like, I love like the interaction with the fans, and I mean, that's why I love the game of basketball. Interacting with the fans, whether it's good or bad. They pay to come support their team, and they pay, and they're very passionate in Europe about their teams, like about their colors. They would live and die by it. So it's good to kind of put on a show. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a showman. As a professional athlete, you go out there to entertain, and I kind of find that as another way to kind of entertain, and also a way for me myself to get going. Sometimes it's the, basketball it can be a daunting sport, like the business aspect of it, the traveling aspect of it. So you got to find ways to kind of just have fun with it. I mean, as a kid, you're out there having fun, and as a professional, I gotta find ways to just enjoy the game. And so those are some of the things I do to kind of bring that joy back to the game and just have fun out there, man. But it gets crazy, especially in some of these other countries, man. Sometimes it's funny because I'll just tell them I don't understand them.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Like when you say you got to have that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
You don't have it when you're on the court. But I remember when I used to go to the bench, there's no tunnel vision because you hear everything around you.
No, there's not. There is not. And if you're winning on an away court, it can get pretty bad.
Yeah.
Hey, Peyton, one of the things I wanted to talk about, can you tell us a little bit about your perception in the difference between styles of basketball, the style that we typically see here in America or in the NBA versus the style we see in Europe? Can you talk a little bit about the similarities and differences you see there?
Yeah, man, I would say the European game is very different in a sense than the American style. I would say the higher the clubs you go, you'll see like the styles of play can really make a big difference. Mm-hmm. For instance, like some of the smaller clubs in Europe, you see, that's why I say people get like a bad perception of European basketball, because they might see somebody, and not to take anything away, but somebody from like the second division or like a lower club go out there and get 30 a game or 20 plus points a game. You're not really getting that unless you're like Mike James or Shane Larkin, like on a EuroLeague level. But you're not really getting that green light to really do that at a top tier European level. And that took me some getting used to. Like on the top team, I'm playing 20 minutes. Yeah. 23 minutes max. So you have to go out there and be efficient. You got to get your 12, 13 points efficiently. And that's the biggest thing I would say about like the European game and the NBA style or American style, because NBA is just more spaced out. Like, yeah, the guys might be bigger, more athletic in a sense, but the game just more spaced out, more space on the floor. If you can shoot and create for yourself, you have a higher chance of having those big nights. Where in Europe, everything's clogged up. It's more physical, more banging, and it's more of a different coaches have different type of systems, so not everybody's gonna get that freedom. So it's a big difference, man. I would say you have to be a lot more efficient in the European, especially at the higher level. You have to be more efficient per se to like have a good year. Like you can average 12, 11 points and like 4 assists, and that's a really good year. But people be like, oh, you only average 11 points. Like when I first came over, I seen I was looking at the numbers, like, okay, this guy's one of the top point guards in EuroLeague. Let me see his numbers. Oh, he's only averaging 11 and 5. Like that's terrible. But getting over here, man, that's equivalent to about a good 23 and 8, because you're only doing it in 19, 20 minutes. Because they like to rotate heavy over here. Like I said, if you're not, Mike James, Shane Larkin, or Alexis Fed, like you're not really getting that green light to go out there and shoot every time. Like, and I mean, credit to those guys. Those guys are professional scorers who all should be in the NBA. But it's tough, man, to get those type of numbers at a higher level in Europe. And I would say that's what makes a big difference. Now you can go to like a lower team, and like the coaches give you the freedom to rock out, and then that's where you get the kind of similarity game between the American style. But once you get to like, I would say a high level Euro Cup team or high level EuroLeague team or even Champions League team, you see those styles kind of differentiate between like the good teams and the bad teams.
Mm-hmm. Tell me this, as a point guard in Europe, being at the game so different, do you think there's a slightly different approach to the game from the position that you play? You have to kind of have a slightly different mentality that you take towards things. Like at my time in Europe, there was a lot of coaches I had came from ex-Yugoslavia, right? So Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia. And they had a bunch of rules in terms of when you come off the ball screen, you have to look here and do this and that. What is your take? I don't know what your experience has been like with that. What is your take on those things just the rules around the game in Europe?
I would say my first year in Berlin, we had like a Turkish coach who was kind of similar to that way, where we didn't run a lot of pick and rolls. It was more sets to like have a 3-man come off the pick and roll because, you know, they were bigger in a sense, and they were like he likes to look at the mismatches and such, like things of that nature. So that was tough to get used to. But with the coach I have now, it you know, he's kind of a legend in Europe, but he likes to play a freestyle, like just free movement, player read and react. And he gives me a lot of freedom to kind of do what I can, coming off pick and roll, coming off this. He's helped me a lot with, you know, like my game personally, just changing my speed, looking at this read. Okay, don't go all the way in here, pull up for your shot. But I get what you're saying. I see a lot of different teams, like you said, like with the Serbian coaches or, you know, other type of coaches that they have their rules. Like, no, you come off the pick and roll, you make this pass, you make this play. And I think sometimes, like, it can be good for some type of players, but it can be also really bad for other type of players. That's why you don't see a lot of guys who make it over here, because a lot of times it has to do with the coaching. Like, you go to a coach that wants you to run one system, one play, it can get tough. You know, I've had ex-teammates tell me that they play with coaches that they have to be at a specific spot on the floor in order to run a pick and roll. Yeah. They have to go one way in order to come off the other way. When you come off pick and roll, you better not shoot this shot at this time.
Right.
It can get tough, man, especially in Europe. Like, you know, with the coaches and everything, they want – because, I mean, they have to show that they can coach, because over here they can get fired like that. Yeah. So they're going to run it their way, or, you know, that's why you see so many people leave teams, go to different teams, don't work out. Because, I mean, a lot of point guard, it's a very mental game, because if you can't handle a certain coach, it can affect you, and it can affect the team, and that's a lot of people's downfall.
Yeah.
It's either there
One
or
of the things I'm sorry.
I was saying it's either their way or the highway.
Oh, definitely. They 100%. If you won't do it, they'll get somebody else that will.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things I've seen in my career, man, is and I wonder what your experience is like with this. I think it's a little different in Alba. You guys have kept the same group together. So that's been really cool. One of the things I saw in my career was, and I saw it really early, I saw a lot of guys get cut. A lot of guys get cut. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen, maybe not on your team, but just around the places you've been, and how quickly guys can get cut for maybe the smallest things? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, again, my first year with Alba, it was a different experience. I saw a guy who got cut because, you know, I guess he didn't have his physical in or whatever, and it was some other type of situation that the coach, he was coming to do like the workouts, you know, as far as conditioning stuff, but he didn't want to do the practice-wise, the 5-on-5 and everything, because he didn't want to get hurt and situation like that. So he was doing the conditioning, but the coach just didn't feel well. So, I mean, he got cut like the next day. And I don't know if it was from a contractual standpoint or whatever, but that was interesting. But my first year in Italy, I mean, guys will get hurt. They'll bring guys in, cut them next day. It was just kind of like a change in rotation. It was weird because it was my like kind of first like as a professional experience. Like, you're bringing this guy in, he gets acclimated to the team, you know, and as a team, you kind of like trying to bring everybody in as a brother. So, you know, you get to know them, you get to know their family. They're there for a month and then they're gone. You're like, whoa, hold on, like, you know. So you stop trying to get too attached to them, but it's tough because, you know, guys will sign like a month contract, or the guys will sign like a 2-month contract, and those 2 months are a long time in Europe, especially if you're playing one game a week. You chilling with that person every day in practice, going out to eat, whatever, and the next thing they're gone, and you're like, all right, and then a new player's coming in. So it's tough, man, from that standpoint to, see guys come and go and that. But I've seen guys, it's not as common, I would say, in the German league, where you kind of see players just rotate like that, just from a contractual standpoint. But I've heard stories about coaches getting players to, I want you to come work out at this time, or, to try to get them cut. Like, you need to be here at this time. You're not working out with the team. You're away from the team. You'd be out here at 7 o'clock to work out. Like, just crazy little things. Like, go get your blood tested every day.
Yeah.
Just off the wall things that I've heard. I'm just like, I can never deal with that. Like, one of my old boys was like, yeah, I have to work out at 7 a.m. every day before the team got there. And then afterwards, I have to go to the hospital, do like a P test or a blood test. They were just trying to find ways to, they try to find ways to cut a player, to find any type of excuse they can. And it's a business. It's a shady business. It can be in a lot of different places, man. So, yeah.
All right, Peyton, I know you've been over in Europe a couple of years now. I ask everyone this question that come on this show. So I'm going to ask you, because people don't expect when they come to Europe that they're going to run into the caliber players that's over here.
Mm-hmm.
So, since you've been in Europe, who would you say gave you the business?
Me personally? Nah. I would say one of the hardest guys that I had to guard this year was I had to guard Lorenzo Brown, who's a tough guard at Red Star. Just because his size. I mean, he's like 6'5", and he's not like fast, but he's very deceptive. Like, he 1-2 steps, he's at the rim. So he was a tough guard for me. I didn't guard Shane at all really this year. And Mike James, I didn't guard at all. So, those are the two guys that usually poses the most problems. But that Killian Hayes kid was really good this year. He's going into the draft from He played at this year.
Yeah. He's young.
Yeah,
he was 18.
Yeah, he's young. Good player. Yeah, he dropped me in that game. I was so mad. I was like, man, this is going to be all the damn highlights. I'm just like, right when he did too, and I stumbled, I'm like, just don't make the shot. And he made this, and that was like one of the only threes he made that whole game. He hasn't been making threes all year. And he made that shot. I'm like, damn, this is about to be on all the Swish Cultures, Hoop mixtapes. I'm like, I got to do it.
It's going to be on this draft video.
For sure. I was like, man, all right, I know around the time the draft is going to come. I was like, I know after this game, I'm going to get a lot of heat. And then when the draft comes, I'm going to get a shit ton of heat. And I was like, all right, so I just got to realize once my name starts buzzing, I know what's going on. But it was funny because it was one of those moments where it's like, yeah, like he just caught me in a good move. It was a great move. It was a clutch moment too of the game, but I always hit people when they hit me up. I'm like, yeah, I hit the game time three to send it to overtime, and then smacked them in overtime, and we won. It was, I was thinking like kind of I always had to think of a comeback. We got to get defensive or something like that.
Right.
Like, no, but we won, and I outscored them. Everybody like the old saying with the AI cross Michael Jordan. I was like, yeah, but I still won the game and still did the most damage. But nah, he was a tough kid to guard, man, because he's a very smooth kid. Athletic, tall too. But I would say those two kind of pose the most problems for me this year. But I ain't really never had somebody just kill me.
I got a question. You're known as a good defender, so I can see that actually. Most times when somebody say that, I kind of look at them with the side. I'm like, nah, dog, you got to before. But you're known as a good defender, so I do have to ask you this, though. You said you didn't guard Mike James or Shane Larkin.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ducking smoke, sir?
No, I ain't never ducked no smoke. With Shane was at the 2 for FS, so we had another player on him. I guarded Shane, throughout the game, like certain possessions.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he was literally killing that game, and that was my first game back from injury, so coach didn't have me on him. Yeah. And then with Mike also, Mike plays the 1 and the 2, so I was kind of switching back and forth. But I mean, I love those type of matchups. Mm-hmm. Like, 'cause if they got to guard me, I got to guard them. But it was like our coach, we ran – you probably seen it. We run like a weird – sometimes we'll play a boxing 1. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we'll play different type of defenses. So it was never really my matchup to go. But I would say another person that gave me fits that didn't really score a lot, but gave me fits was Campazzo from Madrid.
I love
just the way he just ran the pick and roll, how he came off of it, the way he set up his players. It was tough because you're getting screened by Tavares, and then he got so many players just spotting up, ready to shoot. And you're coming off so many pick and rolls and movements. He was a tough guard. I mean, really, just EuroLeague in general it was a battle every night. But man, I look forward to those matchups, man. I didn't duck no smoke from them. I guarded them when I was in the game for certain periods, but I wasn't in the game. Like I said, I don't play the whole game, and I was just coming off injuries. I had a lot of injuries this year, so wasn't at my best to pick them up like usual.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people don't know that never been to Europe. When you're on a top, I would say from middle to top tier teams, you're not going to play the entire game. You're going to play maybe 20 minutes at the most, 25, but you're not going to get 30 to 40, 35, 40 minutes. And that's what a lot of players understand coming over.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what took me a lot getting used to coming to like a bigger club, that I had to realize that I had to be more efficient in the time I got. Like, I only play in the domestic league. I played, I think, 19 minutes. And I think in EuroLeague, I played maybe 22, 23 minutes.
Yeah.
But you have to make the most out of those minutes, just because, I mean, in the way that we play is such a high up and down pace. Coach likes to rotate players in. Plus, you have other good players on your team, especially being at a professional level and at a higher club. You have other guys who are good to come in and, serve their minutes. And, a lot of people they look at your numbers, say somebody like, for example, for this last tournament, I was having games where I was having the final tournament that we just played in Berlin. I was having games where I was scoring 18, 16, but doing it in 15 minutes, 16 minutes. So, I wasn't playing like 30 minutes a game, 34 minutes a game, where, other players on other teams are playing 35, 36 minutes a game, having 20-something points. But, the outside world doesn't really see. They just see like, you had 16 points. I mean, that's a decent game, but they don't realize you're doing that in 18, 20 minutes.
Right.
They don't think you're like, and that's why I was saying, like, when I first came over, I'm seeing like top point guards averaging 11 points and 5 assists. I'm like, that ain't nothing. I can do that like easy. But they're doing that in 20 minutes efficiently. So they're not taking 18 shots a game, 15 shots a game. Like, I think the most shots I took was probably around like 9 or 10. And even then you're feeling like, damn, that's a lot of shots. Like the way we play. Like, yeah, you gunning right now. So it's interesting.
I wanted to ask you, man, you just mentioned something that I wanted to get into. You mentioned going back and just finishing that playoff that you played in Germany this year post-COVID. Can you tell us all a little bit about whether you were nervous going into it, whether you were a little scared with the disease flying around? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
I didn't want to go back initially. It was one of those situations where, you're at home. I'm with my family. Everything's shut down, so you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know the significance of this virus that's going around. People are dying left and right. You're seeing crazy numbers like, 2,000 people died, 3,000 people died, and it's like you kind of get numb. But it's a serious thing that was going around, and so at first I didn't really want to go back. Luckily for me, I was able to get to a gym to where I can actually, work out a little bit, like go shoot, do something. That was kind of like private owned gym that I can go to. So nobody was around. So I was still being safe and taking precautions, but I was still able to kind of get in the gym where most other people weren't allowed to. They were just staying at home. So It was tough for me. But I understood from a professional point that, one, I wanted to, get the rest of the money that was, we agreed to the 85% if we came out of play. So I wanted to get the rest of my money. Two, I had another year under my contract, so just felt the security of it. And the last thing, it was like I felt like I had an obligation as a professional to, continue my duties. And to, all my teammates pretty much agreed to come back, so I didn't really want to let them down. So it was a tough situation, but it was a way to kind of save face for our profession, to show that basketball can still continue to thrive. And it was a way to kind of get basketball back out there in the world, because it was one of the first leagues to open back up post-COVID. But initially it was tough because we had to go out there. They told us we had to take a 2-week quarantine. So all the work that I was doing basically going to be negated by sitting around in the house for 2 weeks. And, when we got out there, like I said, Alba Berlin was very professional in the way that they did everything. They closed the gym down to everybody except a select few people that was on the team. Only about 15, 16 people were allowed in the gym. And they had a regular cleaning person come every night. Not even like the general manager or the president. None of them could even come into the gym.
Oh, wow.
So they kept it really strict. We had to do testing every 2 days for the first 2 weeks. And then after we showed no symptoms or all our tests came back negative, then we only had to test every 4 or 5 days. So, and then when we went down to the bubble, the German league bubble, we had to all stay in a hotel. And I would say that, they did a very good job of just keeping it professional. It's tough, with everything going on. They don't know what to expect or how to really handle the situation. But, I think that they did the best that they could. So.
You guys was in Munich, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were in Munich and we stayed at a hotel with the rest of the 10 teams that went down there. So it was cool. It was different because like you might play somebody and you're going to eat dinner right next to them right after the game. So it was a little shit talking here and there, but it was all in good fun though. Everybody was down there for a purpose.
How rewarding was it to come off of that and get that championship?
Oh man, I tell you, got down there, man. Like I said, at first I didn't want to go back. It was just too much going on, and you're already just like, damn, I got to go back. You're out of basketball shape in a sense, and then you're staying in a hotel for 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. It was tough. So it was definitely rewarding to win it all. And we went 10-0. So it was
everybody really easy.
It wasn't easy. We made it look a little easy, but it wasn't easy. I think the 2-game playoff kind of helped us in a little bit in a sense because, they did it by points. And so we got a big every game in the playoffs in the first game. So by the time the second game came around, if you're not caught up within that first quarter, guys are just like, all right, whatever. Like it's tough at that point. Guys want to go home. Guys want to finish up. So it was definitely a mental game at that point. I was counting down the days to go home, but we just kept telling ourselves, let's make it worth it. Let's make this whole thing coming back. Let's make this trip worth it to finish out. And I think winning the championship, because it felt weird, bro, because that second game, we won the first game against Louisville by, I think, 23 points in the first game. So we're up about 15 to 20 points. So we were up going into the next game by 15 to 20 points. And so the whole game, you know, we're kind of like going through. We got up 1 point by 15 in that game. So we're up 30 points essentially. So the game's pretty much over. But they kept coming back and making it close. And by the time the fourth quarter came, there was no chance for them to win, but they win that game.
Right.
And we're like, no, we can't go out with a 9-1 record. Like, we can't go out with a loss. Like, you can't win a championship with a loss. So we're like, you know, so it went down to like the final buzzer. They missed the shot at the end. We got the rebound and ended up winning by 3 or 2 or something like that. But, you know, it was one of those things that it didn't really hit. And they bring out the trophy, they bring out the shirts. You're like, you know, we just really did this. Like, we just won the championship. Like, then we got hyped and then everything. It was satisfying to come home with the championship and to kind of prove ourselves and prove that we were the best this year.
That's pretty cool, man.
Was that your first German championship? No, right?
That was my first league championship. Earlier in the year we had won the cup.
Yeah.
The cup, which is like the mid-season tournament, and we ended up winning that. And it's crazy because, I mean, for the last 3 years, my last 4 years at Alba, we've been to 6 straight finals. We went to 3 straight league finals, 2 straight cup finals, and the Euro Cup finals. And that we finally got over the hump, won that cup finals, and finally won the league finals. So, I mean, it's been a journey. Like, you know, you right there on the cusp of it, and it's like, just got to get over the hump. So we finally got over the hump, and it was a great feeling.
I know earlier you was talking about some of the trials and tribulations of like some of the players, as you know, some of the stuff they got to endure, they get cut, you know. Is there a story that you know of where maybe a team like really, really messed over a player?
Yeah, man, I know. I mean, if you're in Europe, you hear about a lot of stories, especially, you know, knowing a lot of players. You hear a lot of the things that they go through. Like, one of my old friends, he went through something where the team didn't really like him. He wasn't really doing too well. And, you know, they ended up, you know, trying to get rid of him, like, to the sense where they were making him come to practice, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning before the team would get there, making him do individual practice, making him come to practice, and then sending him to the hospital to do like blood tests, urine tests, to see if he's been smoking or drinking, to find any excuse to cut their contract. And credit to the player, like, he held strong. He was like, he's going to get his money. He's going to do everything he can to, you know, fight through it. And I was like, man, you're stronger than me. Because that's tough, man, when you're in a whole nother country, you don't know anybody, you don't know their language, you don't know what the doctors could be saying, you don't know what the doctors could be doing, you don't know what kind of shady stuff can be going on. And to fight through it and to get through that, man, it's a tough deal, man. You know, I'm happy for that player, but you hear a lot of those shady stories being over in Europe, man. It can be a good business for some. It can be a shady business for others.
Yeah, one of the tricky things about that, man, is I imagine it'd be really easy if you're in one of those situations to just say, man, F it, man, and go out and, you know, kind of act the fool.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to have, like in your case, in your friend's case, it sounds like he kept his head together, he stayed strong through it, and made the best out of a really difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, if you have, you know, I would say you need to have a good foundation in the car. You need to have a good foundation behind you, like a good agent, you know, a good support system, because it's, like I said, it's tough. You're by yourself. You're in a whole new country that you don't know anybody there, and you need to have an agent that's going to fight for you, like do the business things. And I think that's where an agent is really huge in a lot of players' situations that they need to pick a good agent, because sometimes agents can be dealing with the teams and they might have the team best interest in the player. And, in this instance, I think the agent had the best interest of the player, and, they got through it together.
I actually know someone who went through a situation where him and the team was constantly beefing. The team stopped paying him his money. So what he did was go sell all the stuff that he had in his apartment that belonged to the team, took the car, drove to another country, and called a flight back to America. Players also also do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can believe it. I've heard stories about players just leaving their car, wherever, because they didn't get paid, and they're just like, you know what, screw you, screw the team. Like,
I know players that sold that car to get their money.
Hey man, European life, man, it can get wild in some areas. Man, that's what I say. You gotta find that good fit, man, and stick with it. Hey, you don't know what's gonna happen, man. You don't get paid on time. I had players that I know just they didn't get paid in 30 days. They're like, all right, I'm out. They didn't give the team the chance. No, I'm out. I feel like I'm at that stage in my career. It's like, no, I'm out. Like, after that first, like, nope. I gotta go find another team. Like, you cut the contract, I'm cutting the contract. Like, and luckily, which I'm thankful for now, in EuroLeague, there's a EuroLeague Player Association. So, like, they give the players a voice. They keep the teams accountable, because a lot of teams, man, they'll go 3 or 4 months without paying the player. So, luckily now, being EuroLeague, and hopefully it kind of branches out to domestic leagues and everything, that they get a strong union that, they can fight for them when these teams, don't hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, I would tell you like this: a lot of countries not going to have no union.
No, I
ain't going to let that happen.
Yeah. That's why I was surprised with EuroLeague, so I'm happy with that.
Well, man, we had a good time with you today, man. We appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show, man.
Oh, no, man. Anytime, man. You got my guy.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Big Al Snow, man. Franklin legend. Always. Coach Curry always told me about it, man. He gave the biggest, came in Garfield, gave him the big. Everybody stood on their feet. Oh, yeah, Alvin's here, huh? All right. Yeah, that's my guy, man. Love Snow.
Appreciate you, dog.
Hey, man. Thanks for tuning in to EuroSteppin Podcast. Follow us on everything: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. EuroSteppin Podcast, no G.
Because we got all the game.
Thought it was a joke, what they still playing games for? Holes in my denim, never holes in my game, no. You won't be just like me, they don't